Thanks for joining us for CBN NewsWatch. I'm Gary Lane. Today, no more ceasefire negotiations between Israel and Hamas, with President Trump saying over the weekend Israel should get rid of Hamas. And now Israel is allowing more aid into Gaza to help alleviate the humanitarian crisis there. A threat to the U.S., Chinese computer hackers penetrating a high-level security agency which designs and maintains America's nuclear weapons. China may have gotten into key systems more than a decade ago. We'll go back to the Middle East for a look at an important conference over a century ago that helped lay the legal foundation for the modern state of Israel. And sharing the gospel is a central part of Christianity. But many believers are hesitant to do it. We'll show you how one ministry has a unique way of helping believers talk about their faith. Those stories for you today on NewsWatch.
This is CBN NewsWatch.
We begin in Israel, where the attempts at a ceasefire and hostage agreement have come to an end, as President Trump says Hamas is not interested in a deal. And Israel began a series of limited ceasefires across Gaza Sunday. That action allows more humanitarian aid into the Strip. The move is drawing praise from the international community, but criticism inside Israel. Chuck Holton brings us the story from Jerusalem.
The Israeli military faced mounting pressure to ease the humanitarian crisis in Gaza. In response, the IDF announced new measures to expand aid delivery, both by land and air.
In order to reach even more civilians, the IDF has conducted an airdrop operation of humanitarian supplies led by COGAT with international aid organizations. In addition, we are now implementing daily humanitarian pauses and designated corridors to allow safe movement for aid distribution.
According to the IDF, more than 850 aid trucks entered Gaza over the past week. Israel also connected a power line to increase clean water output in Gaza by 5 million gallons per day. But as the UN convoys resumed operations, some were looted, raising serious concerns about distribution security. President Trump says Hamas does not want a deal.
They hardened up. They don't want to give them back. And so Israel's going to have to make a decision. I know what I do, but I don't think it's appropriate that I say it, but Israel's going to have to make a decision.
Families of some hostages condemn the ceasefires, calling them a strategic mistake that gives Hamas time to regroup without securing the release of any captives.
So we're sending soldiers to fight the enemy, they go to war and they sacrifice their lives. And on the second hand, we're sending them everything they need in order to continue this war effort against us.
Sunday night in Jerusalem, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu addressed Christian leaders, including Pastor Paula White of the White House Faith Office, in which he pushed back on accusations that Israel was persecuting Christians.
Israel is now portrayed as the enemy of Christians, and the enemies of Christians are portrayed as the friends of the United States. Israel has a thriving Christian community, the only thriving Christian community in the broad radius of the Middle East, where Christians are not tolerated, they're cherished. There is no policy of starvation in Gaza, and there is no starvation in Gaza.
Netanyahu reaffirmed Israel's commitment to dismantling Hamas and securing the return of the hostages, while warning that the war for public opinion may be just as critical as the fight on the ground. Meanwhile, the United Nations is holding a meeting of high-level officials to promote a two-state solution to the Israel-Palestinian conflict, co-chaired by the foreign ministers of France and Saudi Arabia. Israel opposes a Palestinian state. The U.S. calls the meeting unproductive to ending the war in Gaza. Both are boycotting the meeting. From Jerusalem, I'm Chuck Holton for CBN News.
Coming up, how Chinese computer hackers recently penetrated a critical U.S. security agency that designs America's nuclear weapons. And we'll see how China may have gotten into key U.S. military systems more than 10 years ago. We'll have that story when we come back. Chinese computer hackers recently penetrated a high-level security agency responsible for maintaining and designing America's nuclear weapons. It's not clear if they gained access to any classified information, but a new investigation reveals China may have breached sensitive U.S. military systems more than a decade ago. CBN national security correspondent Caitlin Burke has the details.
China's potential end to DoD systems didn't come in the form of a cyber attack or a rogue agent inside the government. The source appears to be Microsoft employees based in China, operating under oversight of undertrained U.S.-based supervisors.
These Microsoft engineers based in mainland China were feeding code to what were called digital escorts. So these were DoD employees with security clearances that were able to take the code that was produced by Microsoft engineers and then put it directly into DoD systems.
While these Microsoft employees are not known Chinese agents, according to a ProPublica investigation, many of the digital escorts tasked with patching their work into DoD systems report being ill-equipped to understand the code they receive. Jack Burnham, a research analyst with the Foundation for Defense of Democracies, sees this arrangement creating two main security concerns.
So there's both a concern about vulnerabilities in terms of Chinese engineers employed by Microsoft having an extensive knowledge of the cloud computing system, so being able to target certain aspects, as well as potentially introducing vulnerabilities that these digital escorts may not have known existed because they didn't have the technical expertise in order to spot them.
Both Microsoft and the Pentagon were reportedly notified over the last decade regarding potential security concerns given the location of the Microsoft engineers. But when ProPublica spoke with former and current Pentagon officials, many had little to no knowledge of the program or how it operated. The spokesperson for the Defense Information Systems Agency saying, quote, "Literally no one seems to know anything about this, so I don't know where to go from here." Microsoft, meanwhile, issuing a statement saying its personnel and contractors operate in a manner, quote, "consistent with U.S. government requirements and processes." No matter what circumstances led to this system flying under the radar for so long, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth says it ends now.
And I want to thank all those Americans out there in the media and elsewhere who raised this issue to our attention so we could address it.
Effective immediately, Hegseth says China will no longer have any involvement in DoD cloud services, and he's ordered a 2-week review of all other Pentagon systems.
This is obviously unacceptable, especially in today's digital threat environment. Now, this was a legacy system created over a decade ago during the Obama administration. But we have to ensure the digital systems that we use here at the Defense Department are ironclad and impenetrable.
National security experts say it's time for a cybersecurity mindset shift across the federal government and for a major investment in a trusted workforce here at home capable of ensuring more critical systems aren't left vulnerable. Caitlin Burke, CBN News, Washington.
Still ahead, we're going back to the subject of Israel to bring you a look at what was known as the San Remo Resolution from more than 100 years ago. We'll show you how this historic conference led to the birth of modern-day Israel right after this. "105 years ago, a crucial meeting shaped the destiny of the Middle East. World leaders gathered in San Remo, Italy, to decide the future of the region after the fall of the Ottoman Empire. They also laid out the legal foundation for the modern state of Israel. Chris Mitchell has that story.
I'm here in San Remo, Italy, at the very spot where world leaders redrew the map of the Middle East. It hosted the San Remo Conference of 1920, a little-known meeting that shaped the destiny of nations in the modern Middle East.
While the guns of World War I had fallen silent, battles over borders and sovereignty were only beginning. The 400-year-old Ottoman Empire, called the sick man of Europe, was crumbling. The Allied powers of France, the United Kingdom, Italy, and Japan, with the United States as an observer, now face the issue of dividing the vast territories of Iraq, Syria, and the land called Palestine. San Remo served as the stage for those decisions to be made.
This is during the course of 1 week, and especially then the last day of that week, they were looking into what would happen with what was then called Palestine.
Thomas Sandel, founder of the European Coalition for Israel, tells CBN News that in April 1920, the fate of the Jewish nation weighed in the balance.
It was a bit of a wrestling match with the British, with the French, as to would the Balfour Declaration get acceptance by the international community, be incorporated into international law.
The British prevailed, and the Balfour Declaration, nearly word for word, would become part of the San Remo Resolution. The 1917 document stated, His Majesty's government views with favor the establishment of a Jewish state in the land called Palestine.
The people that had a clear connection to the land of Israel were recognized under international law. The Balfour Declaration, which said that the Jewish people should have a national home in Eretz Israel.
After nearly 2,000 years, the Jewish people had a homeland recognized under international law. One English diplomat, Lord Curzon, called the resolution Israel's Magna Carta. Zionist leader Chaim Weizmann considered it so important, he declared the modern state of Israel was born on the 25th of April, 1920, in San Remo.
I always say that this was like this one moment in world history when heaven and earth were completely aligned, because the key players at that time, and there'd never been a situation like that before or after, where you had people who really had a deep love for the Jewish people, who were biblical, very literate, at the place of power. David Lloyd George said that the most important thing he accomplished was really what he did in San Remo, to pave the way for the recreation, the rebirth of a Jewish state. He and Lord Balfour, they were adamant that we cannot miss this opportunity.
2 years later, the 51 members of the League of Nations ratified the San Remo Resolution. It gave the Jews exclusive legal and political rights in Palestine, while the rest of the Middle East went to the Arabs.
The international legal foundation for the Middle East was laid here, and it was never changed. And so unless it's specifically totally changed and overturned by the United Nations, which it has not been, they actually did recognize the modern nation state of Israel, then it means Israel has a legal right to be there and to be a Jewish homeland.
Rick Ridings, founder of the prayer ministry Sukkot Hallel, says more Christian leaders need to know the story.
Of course, they have the right biblically to be in their homeland that God promised to them. But in the political realm, you need to come back to the legal bases. That's why it's important that Christian leaders who understand God's heart and purposes for Israel become aware of these legal, international legal issues.
After October 7, 2023, a global chorus accused Israel of being illegitimate. Sandel believes that's why the story of San Remo is more important than ever, when Israel's adversaries raise questions about its right to exist by rewriting history.
Because it comes back to the narrative that we hear on our elite universities of the Jewish state just being expression of colonialism, where the opposite is true. And I think it's not a difficult story to tell. You have all the historical verification to explain that. And we need to become better at retelling the miracle of Israel.
A story forgotten, but a story that needs to be told again and again. It's why Sandel believes the Villa de Bashan should become a destination for leaders and policymakers.
So this is a place that is so significant for Jewish history. Most people, Christians, Jews, and others, they don't know it. And I think this is a beautiful story to be retold, the city where history was rewritten. And I think, looking at the future, I would like to see similar meetings taking place here.
The San Remo Resolution was a turning point in history, a legal foundation for the rebirth of Israel after nearly 2,000 years. It wasn't just politics in action, but prophecy unfolding. And it's the desire of many that this truth would resonate around the world.
Chris Mitchell, CBN News, San Remo, Italy.
Coming up, here at home, long lines, tents, and porta potties. The idea behind this setup in Chicago's South Side was to give away 5,000 shoes in 5 days. Not just any shoes, Nike Air Jordans. We'll show you how this event was used to spread the gospel when we come back. Sharing the gospel is a core tenet of the Christian faith. Yet surveys show most believers shy away from evangelism. A ministry based in Texas is helping Christians get more comfortable sharing their faith. And it went to an unlikely place to do it, Chicago. CBN's John Jessup brings us that story.
When it comes to the Windy City, Navy Pier, Willis Tower, the Magnificent Mile, and maybe even Wrigley Field make the list of Chicago's top tourist destinations. One place not included? The city's South Side. An area known for crime and neighborhoods that have seen brighter days. Although, don't try to tell that to Kyle Martin.
There's a label of Englewood. There's a label at the back of the yard. It's like, oh, it's tough. It's rough, man. Nobody wants you to come. We've seen the opposite. Right there, verse 9.
Kyle's passion for evangelism has taken him across the country and overseas. His latest stop? This Southside City block, where his ministry, Time to Revive, set up shop to share the gospel through a shoe giveaway. And not just any pair, but a brand that's synonymous with a Chicago legend, Nike Air Jordans.
We wait in line 3 or 4 hours, in front of Foot Locker, Champs, every Jordan release. So to do it for Jesus, to do it for God is a beautiful thing, man, to see this line.
The goal?
Yes, we do have 3 lines.
To give away 5,000 pair of donated Air Jordans in 5 days. With long lines, tents, and porta potties, the setup might conjure up a chaotic shoe carnival. Yet with security,
single file line, please,
logistics, and hundreds of volunteers, this operation glides along smoothly.
So it feels like a process, like all the tents and all the stations, but the heart behind it is just that people will be welcomed into a place. And we just have a spirit of hospitality.
That's what most said they experienced. Even Chicago resident Michelle Craig, who weathered the rain and hot summer sun for 3 long hours.
When I made it inside, it was worth it, because I was gonna leave.
Her tough exterior melted away when greeted with cheers and embraced with prayer.
We built to be tough, everything is tough. And she was so anointed because it was so pure and it was heartfelt. I couldn't even stop crying.
During that warm welcome, runners already are working behind the scenes to find the right size. And while waiting, volunteers, young and old alike, share the gospel.
Do you feel like you got more than just a pair of shoes?
Yeah, I absolutely did.
It's not just the residents who live here in Chicago who are walking away with something they need. For the volunteers, though intangible, they're gaining something worth way more than an expensive pair of shoes.
Norma Berlin decided to volunteer after watching a documentary about Kyle's ministry called The One Who Hears, A Call to Obedience.
Evangelism, 100%, he's calling all of us to do this.
And I'm like, oh boy, what's God gonna have me do? So I was like, oh no, okay, Lord, I'm gonna watch it and see what it is.
We're just going around asking people if we could pray, if we could do one prayer for you.
Weeks later, she was in Chicago, learning how to boldly share her faith while becoming inspired by the depths of God's grace toward others.
God loved Nineveh so much, and he sent Jonah. He loves his people so much here in Chicago. He's like, I'm going to send an army to go get you.
An army of more than 500 volunteers teaming up with local pastors and ministries. More than kicks, Kyle says the real goal is to move churchgoers from out of the pews to the streets and getting more comfortable about sharing God's rescue plan for the world.
And it really is fulfilling the Great Commission. These volunteers are coming because they want an opportunity to go share the gospel where they can actually see people's lives changing.
For by grace you have been saved through faith.
They did it through street ministry, round-the-clock intercessory prayer, Bible giveaways, and baptisms in this mobile truck.
You baptize in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
105 in all.
I have never done anything like this ever before in my life.
We saw volunteers barely able to contain their excitement as they moved out of their comfort zones to share their faith. That's true even for longtime and visible Christians like Andre Turan, a volunteer who also happens to be team chaplain for the Chicago Bulls.
I think this event has told me, put the flesh aside and just get over yourself. And that has allowed people to truly, I think, encounter the living Christ.
Souls for Jesus also provided food for the volunteers and the people they came to serve. Texans on Mission, which usually responds to disasters, prepared nearly 10,000 meals.
Why would we be doing something like this that's not a disaster? Well, there's no greater disaster than people that don't know the Lord.
Chicago pastor Otis Davis, who worked with Kyle's ministry in other cities, pushed for an event in his neighborhood for 10 years.
I saw there, if God could change a small community and make a difference, he definitely could change Chicago. And if he changed Chicago, we could change the world.
That sentiment about needed change echoed by his son's generation.
You get warnings, don't come to this area because how dangerous it is. But this is exactly where salvation needs to be. This is exactly where God needs to be to make the transformation.
Kyle says seeing that transformation up close is what's motivated him to commit his life to the Savior's words in Matthew chapter 28, to go make disciples, baptize, and teach.
You know, the statistics show that many, many people in America are not sharing the gospel. And that really is our goal, to equip people to think, I can do this in a gas station, I can do this at the grocery store, or I can do this in my own neighborhood.
A vision he believes will lead to personal and national revival. John Jessup, CBN News, Chicago.
Well, that's it for this edition of CBN NewsWatch. Remember, you can find more of our news programs on the CBN News channel anytime or online with cbnnews.com. Also, tell us what you think about the stories you've seen by emailing newswatch@cbn.com or talk to us on Facebook, Instagram, and X, formerly known as Twitter. Hope you'll join us next time. Have a great day.